Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, some enjoyable quick reads and an absolute whopper. It's my weekly wrap-up. So I actually ended up last weekend reading a bunch of comics rather than books. Not something I've done for a while, but I had a really good time with it. So I will talk about those comics in this video, but I'm going to cover the books first because I'm conscious not everyone likes comics. So you may just want to stick around for the books and then dial off for the bit where I talk about the comics. Right, so let's go through the books then. So the first thing I finished or read this week was Videodrome by Jack Martin. Jack Martin actually is a pseudonym for Dennis Etchison, the horror writer, which I didn't realise until I looked up some information about this book. So this was very kindly sent to me by one of my viewers, Jordan. I really enjoyed this. So I had read it like years and years ago before I'd even seen the movie of Videodrome, and remembered liking it, but like reflecting on it, I was worried about how good a job it would do of bringing the movie to life. So the movie is very disturbing, very graphic, very weird, and very visual. It's a David Cronenberg film, and he's known for his kind of outlandish visuals and the special effects he uses in his films. And I did wonder if if the book would do a decent job of actually capturing that, and it does. I thought this was a pretty great novelisation, to be honest with you. It captures the mood, the kind of weird grittiness of the film. There's a very disturbing quality to the film, and this does come across in the book. The characters are well portrayed. I just thought overall it was a really decent read. If you're a fan of the movie, I definitely recommend checking it out. So the plot, if you don't know, it's about this guy who runs a cable TV channel, and someone who works for him picks up this weird feed of something called Videodrome, which appears to be snuff movies, and it's about him kind of investigating that. And as he falls deeper and deeper into that investigation, things get weirder and weirder. So it's a great concept. The film, if you haven't seen it, is amazing, but this book was really decent too. Right, moving on then. So another book that was sent to me by a viewer. This one was sent to me by Richard. The Snowmobile Kidnapping by Judy Hughes. This was a lot of fun. So a very, I suspect, quite quickly written, and definitely the actual book had lots of like typos and things like that in it. So quite cheaply produced. Interestingly, the company, the publishers of this book, don't put their name anywhere on the outside of the book. There's no company logo, nothing like that. So I don't know if they were ashamed of it, but they shouldn't have been. It was a fun read. So it's set in, I think, in Minnesota, and it's about this woman who is she's married to a guy whose dad runs a big snowmobile company. There's like a senator in the family as well, and so they're like a kind of power family, if you like, in the local area. She gets kidnapped by this group of people who are holding her for ransom and trying to get money out of the family, basically. So it had a real kind of like cheesy soap opera vibe to it. And there's all these different rivalries going on in the family. Not a huge amount of action, to be honest with you, but it was quite an enjoyably tense thriller. But yes, like super trashy. But entertaining, like clearly written by, I don't know if Judy Hughes wrote many books, I didn't look her up, but yeah, it just, the concept of it being centred around a snowmobile dynasty, I thought was particularly amusing. And there's a lot of stuff in here about kind of environmentalism and things like that as well. So the woman who gets kidnapped is opposed to snowmobiles because they like pollute the environment. So yeah, another fun quick read. After that then, another very enjoyable quick read, and another book that was sent to me by a viewer, this one by Heidi. So you may have seen this in the mystery box unboxing I did a few weeks ago. So this was Hunt at the Well of Eternity. The name on the title, the name on the cover is Gabriel Hunt. That is a lie. Gabriel Hunt is actually the main character in these books. This one was written by James Reasoner. So this is the first in a series of books. There's 6 books in the series as things stand at the moment, I think, and I suspect there won't be more than 6. But set up originated by Charles Ardai, who's the publisher of the Hard Case Crime books. So this was his attempt to create like a new like pulpy men's adventure type series. So this is very similar to kind of the Doc Savage books, or quite so, it reminded me quite a lot of Clive Cussler's work as well, actually. So Gabriel Hunt is a guy, he and his brother, who has the surprising, shall we say, name of Michael. So if you're in the UK, you may immediately realise why someone being called Michael Hunt is problematic. If you're not in the UK, have a think about it and see if you can put that together in your mind. I'm not going to say it on camera. So yeah, they run this foundation. They've got lots of money and they go around doing, like, helping people and doing adventuring type stuff. In this one, this woman approaches them at a kind of gala event. She's got what appears to be a bottle of whiskey, but it's actually got a clear fluid in it. There's a bit of a mystery as to what that is. The waiters at the event turn out to be like assassins, and they try and kill this woman, and Gabriel Hunt thereafter gets involved in investigating what's going on, travels around the world, goes to like the Guatemalan jungle. So there's just lots of fun stuff in this book. It was just a fun pulpy style adventure, so definitely had a good time with it, and will definitely be reading more. And this cover is just glorious as well. I don't know if that's showing up well, but a really, really great kind of pulpy cover. After that then, I read a Goosebumps book. So I read Ghost Beach by R.L. Stine. Not my favourite Goosebumps book by any means, but still quite entertaining. So it's about this couple of kids, a brother and sister, who are, I think they're on holiday. They're at this kind of like beach location. They meet some other weird kids there. It reminded me a bit actually of the first Goosebumps book, Welcome to Dead House, in that it's got this kind of thing going through it where you think some characters are ghosts but you're not really sure. So it's got a lot of that going on. It's an enjoyable kind of middle grade horror thriller. The theme of like kids being on holiday, being outside of their normal environment, I think is quite common in kind of middle grade fiction, away from adult interference and things like that. So they can just get on with their adventures. So yeah, it was a fun, quick read. I didn't love it, but it was decently entertaining. So that brings me to the Whopper, the Mammoth. So I've only just started it. So I am currently 42 pages through the 1100 pages of Centennial by James Michener. So this is really interesting so far. So it's about this small town called Centennial, which is in Colorado. And the kind of setup for it is, and the first chapter is about the fact that this guy who's like a historian gets hired by a magazine to do, like, basically gather background information about this town, Centennial. And he decides to go big on it, basically. And the rest of the book, I think, is basically his findings, his notes and things like that. So the second chapter, so the first chapter is that setup, like him being hired to do it and him travelling to Centennial and meeting some of the people who live there. The second chapter, which I've just started, goes back to basically the formation of the Earth and talks about the geology of the region. And I understand that there are dinosaurs in this book, and it just literally follows that both the kind of human society history of the area of the town of Centennial, but also the physical history of that location, the geographical history of it, and the geological history of it even. So it's really, really interesting and very, very readable. We'll see how I get on with it this week. But you may find that next week when I do this weekly wrap up, I'm literally just talking about Centennial. So yeah, we'll see how I get on. But yeah, so far so good. So that brings me to the end of the books then. So let me talk about the comics I read then. So I got a Humble Bundle deal recently. So Humble Bundle, if you don't know, is a website that they mostly sell video games, but they also sell books in bundles, and you can get them really cheap, like digital books. So I got a manga bundle from them recently and started reading a couple of the series from that. So I'm going to have to refer to my notes so I don't mispronounce the people's names. So the first thing I read was Shaman King Volume 1 by Hiroyuki Takei. So this is I think these are considered to be shonen style manga, which I think I'm right in saying, and correct me in the comments if you're more knowledgeable than me about this, but typically about kind of a young character who goes on like a bunch of adventures. So in the Shaman King book, you follow this young guy who is a shaman, so he can speak to ghosts and take on the characteristics of ghosts to have battles and stuff like that. So fairly typical, kind of not middle grade exactly, but kind of YA style manga stuff, but quite entertaining. Quite enjoyed that. The other one I started reading, which I read the first 2 volumes of, and I enjoyed more, was what's it called? It's called Noragami Stray God, by a creator called Adachitoka. Apologies, let me try that again. Adachitoka. So this is about a character who is a god, but he's kind of like going round the world, going around the earth, like doing stuff. So he's kind of not living in the heavens anymore. He's just part of normal society and meets different people and does things to help them, basically. He has this companion character who can turn into a sword, which he uses for battles, which is quite fun. So again, just quite interesting. I'm really enjoying the artwork in that one. Just an entertaining read, and I'll definitely read more of both of those series, I think, in the coming weeks. And then the other thing I read comic-wise was a bunch of Commando comics. So Commando, if you don't know, is a very long-running war comic here in the UK. It started, I think, in the 60s. And it was certainly, going strong in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, and I read a fair few of them back then. So they're still going there. And the thing that really strikes me about this is they've done a great job of archiving all of their material. So if you think about it, this is, what you would consider to be quite throwaway stuff. So the comics are... they're all like single stories. They don't tend to have continuing stories. They're like 60 odd pages, and you just get in each one a different kind of war adventure. But what they are now doing, the publisher DC Thompson, is they publish, I think they publish 4 every 2 weeks, so they publish a lot of them, and they publish both reprints of older ones from like the kind of 70s and 80s in particular, and then new stories as well. So they've obviously really, done a great job of maintaining their archive of old stories and can reprint them at will. And it's really enjoyable to read them. I've really enjoyed reading all of these. Let me just show you all of them. So you've got Operation Firebrand, Blood Money, Renegade Raiders The Windmill, Some Kind of Hero, 25 Flights. This was really good. So this is a modern one about a bomber crew who've done they've done enough missions to basically retire, to go home and stop fighting in the war, and they get given the option of doing a final flight, and it's a really tough mission, and they decide to do it. This was really, really gripping. I enjoyed this enormously. The Night the Tow Rope Broke, which was one of the older ones, but again, really interesting. So about this, I think it was set in Sicily, and it's about this rebel group in Sicily, and starts with some British commandos in Sicily getting captured, or one of them gets captured by the rebel group. And then I think my favourite of them was this one, No Passaran. So this is another modern one, but it's about a character who's got PTSD, and it's I thought just really sensitively handled, and it was gripping as a war story, but that gave it an extra element to it as well. And then you've also got Escape to Freedom, and finally Pressure Point, which was a Cold War one. So most of the Commando comics are set during the Second World War, as you've seen from the bunch I've just showed you. But this was a Cold War one, which was, again, a modern one. So this is about a pilot who's being blackmailed by a Soviet spy. But yeah, enjoyed that one too. So I've had quite a mixed reading week, but really enjoyed getting into comics again. I've got a bunch more of those manga things that I got from Humble Bundle, and a bunch more Commando comics I need to get through as well. So yeah, looking forward to maybe introducing some of those more regularly to my reading in the coming weeks and months. Anyway, that's all the reading stuff talked about then. In terms of channel stuff quickly, so the last week you had my channel update video where I talk about the fact I'm going to be reducing the number of videos I do, so going down to 4 videos a week rather than 5. You've had me asking the question, will I read anything, and posing a challenge to viewers to provide me with suggestions of things that I might want to read, both good and bad. I've had already dozens and dozens of suggestions. I think about 70 books have been suggested so far. And my aim is to read those, not all of them, but that will form my TBR for July, basically. So I need to figure out the mechanics of how I'm going to do this, because I don't want to go out and buy 70 books and then not get around to reading them. So I've got enough books already. So I need to do some thinking between now and the start of July and figure out exactly how I'm going to do it. But really delighted with the suggestions I've had through from people so far. So thank you very much. If you've made a suggestion, you can do that either via email, so criminolly@gmail.com, or in the comments on that video. If you can try and keep them in the comments on that video rather than putting them in the comments on this video, that'll be super helpful. So I'll leave a link to this video, to that video, in the description to this one. And then you also had my review of The Auctioneer by Joan Sampson, a interesting horror novel which I very much enjoyed. In the week ahead then, so I've got my March wrap-up video done, so I've filmed that already, so that will definitely be going up this week. And I'm also going to do a video which is going to be a bit different, where I'm going to talk about this book. So I'm going to talk about this book, Videodrome by Jack Martin, but I'm not talking about, it's not a review of the novel, it's a discussion of this physical object and what it tells us. So we'll see how that video goes. I haven't filmed it yet, but I've got some ideas. I think there's something wonderful about old books that have lived a life of their own. And that's what I'm going to talk about in that video. And then you will also get a review video, probably of, I've forgotten the name of it now, the Neville Shute book I read recently, Round the Bend. So yeah, probably a review video of that, but it may end up being something else. Anyway, I will leave it there. Hope you've had fantastic reading weeks. I've really enjoyed everything I've read this week. So I hope you have too. Let me know what you've been reading in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.